bit different today. I'm probably guilty of over editing these videos, so I want a realistic view of what it's like to set up, start sea fishing, and some of the thoughts that go through my head. If you're into the short things, or you're just here to see fish being caught, maybe this is not the video for you. I do not know what's going to happen today. I just thought I would try and be as natural as possible and run through basically a short fishing session. Some reefs in front of us, and I know I've fished this venue before. You can tell actually from the waves there that it's a bit of a sandbank. See, it hits the shingle, hits the sand there, and that's not a bad spot to aim for. Lovely blue day, look at that sky. Everything in there today. Normally take a box, but I've been doing a bit of flounder fishing on the river, so I've got the 2 continental rods in here. Well, I normally bring the Ian Gold's rod rest, but I've got this little short one today. It's absolutely fine. I do prefer the bigger 6-foot ones, but this does fit a bit easier in the car. So if you are in the market for a rod rest, try that. And I normally like to get one rod set up and in, and then start looking at rigs and bait and stuff. So let's get one rod in, see if there's anything about. What do you reckon, Nelly? Let's start off with a lighter weight. Again, that's the benefit of these Conti rods. You can use a lighter weight, and you can see, you focus in there, it is a very flat section here off the sand, and I think a bit of distance is going to help us. And let's just see if this holds bottom. So the lead I'm using is a 125. It's a 3.5 ounce lead, and your traditional beach caster won't be able to cast it as far as a continental rod. And those continental rods do allow you to fish a bit lighter. This rig is it's a cascade rig. So it uses these little cascade swivels to clip down the size 1 hooks, which we will match with a variety of bait today, but mostly lugworm. Puts a big bait trail in the water. I've been making up my own rigs, and it is kind of useful when you first got your rigs on the beach not to crimp them down fully, just adjusting it, making sure that all clips on fine, and then you know you can just tighten up the little crimps here. So on a nice fresh wigglers today, fresh out some people call them. This is a reasonable size worm actually for the south coast, and I can just about get this on without a baiting needle. I do use baiting needles, but I think we can get that on. It might burst a little bit of attention to detail I've noticed. You know when you got the tag on the hook, if you don't cut that dead straight, if you don't cut that neatly, then it'll burst the worm as the worm goes over it. So these are fluorocarbon, it's quite tough, and rather than just roll over it, the worm will just burst and squirt. So yeah, it's important to make sure that the tag end of that knot is neatly cut. If the bait's going to last any amount of time, you want to keep the juices in it really. Juices will start coming out as soon as you cast. This is a baiting needle, it's got a point on one side and then like a little hole or gap on the other, which you put the hook point into. It just means you can straighten out the worm, slide it onto the hook without it breaking. Now I've got a little beginner's guide actually for lugworm, you can watch that on the channel. It really is like a staple bait here. baiting needles a lot. Let's get that on. It's squirted. It's more necessary with these live worms, but I'm going to use a variety today. So not just the fresh worms that we keep in salt water. You've got to keep changing that salt water. But we've also got some wrapped old stinkers in there. You only really, I mean, Dad don't mind them, and sole, although we're out of the sole sort of season here. And then what I do sometimes, I brought this bucket down to show you that we can actually salt the lug, and they last a lot longer. And I've had good catches, believe it or not, with salted lug. You don't have to obsess over fresh bait, although you should have fresh bait with you. You see that the salted lug is a lot easier to get onto the hook. And it's quite easy to do. It's a good way to save some bait and save some money. And of course, have bait with the salted stuff. You can have bait ready when they're not being caught, you know, on smaller tides or the diggers haven't got out, and you can just almost keep them in the shed. Right, so as I say, we'd have one rod out, and then I'll concentrate more on making up better rigs and baits. But just to get that one bait in the water and keep us going, keep that rod tip up just to put the cascade clips in. Everyone has to throw stones here at Hastings. Wherever you go, that's all you've got to do on these shingle beaches if you're not fishing. It's not just for added distance, it's also for bait presentation as well, so you're not blasting all that worm off. You can see in that beach behind me, see where the waves are breaking. I want to be clear of that in that slightly deeper water. Nice little lazy cast to start off with. So many things to watch out for when you're casting. Added problem with having the dog. And make sure we keep that away from her. Right, we're in. We've got a bait in.
Walk this back to the rod rest, see what that tide's doing. As I say, it's normally a bit of slack water at low tide, and then just tighten that. Should feel where that hits. We might find the tide pulls that little lead out. I'm going to find out in a minute. As I say, that's why it's trying to keep it as real as possible today.
And realistically, I think when I come down, I will have always spoken to a friend or two, looked at those catch reports on Facebook, and paid attention to the weather as to where and when I'm going to fish, what might be in that sea in front of us. We've had a good run of the dab, but that's eased off now. Friends are catching dogfish in good numbers and in good sizes, so realistically maybe we're looking at a dogfish, could be an early ray, certainly a whiting or two. But it's just nice to be out, isn't it, sitting here in the sun. It really is a good way to save a bit of money, these salted lug. They're not quite as good as fresh, but I tell you what, you can catch fish with them, so it is worth doing it. Stick some salt in bottom of the bucket, take the cap off obviously, but mix it around a bit and get all that salt on the worms. So the worms need to be gutted for this to work really, and you're just making them a lot drier. Mix it all around, just keep mixing, and then once you've got that, once you sort of used up that salt, you can take them out, chuck the salt away, give it another go, and they will keep really well. I can actually keep some of these in the shed, and I've taken them out after 3 months outside, not even in the fridge, and they've still caught fish. There's a video there to prove it on the top right hand side, how good these salted lug are. So yeah, did you give it a go? Do you salt lug? How have you got on with them? Now some people will laugh at the effectiveness of them, but it is a good way to obviously get your lug when the diggers aren't out or the tides are short and the lug are hard to come by. As for the rigs, I always use the foam rollers. I find them a lot easier to store, especially when you finish fishing. Stick back on that, rinse them off. But today we're going to choose just put a pulley rig on with sprat on here. Let's see if there's a ray about. It's starting to hit the beaches, the rays, although a lot easier in winter, although a lot easier at night time, of course. Doesn't feel too exciting. It's a whiting. Well, we haven't blanked. Just checking the rig over here. It's being nibbled by smaller fish here, I think, even smaller than whiting. Unfortunately, I might have a change of rig. Something with some floating beads. That might help us. see something down here. Don't know if it's a fish, might be some. It looks just like a dogfish actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, the tide's just brought in a doggy, lesser spotted dogfish. Unless that guy's caught one, or yes, you like it, Nelly, as well. Almost alive. No, you don't want it, do you? Better days ahead, but we live and learn, don't we? Better days ahead. Keep having to say that. Keep having to say that. Better days ahead.